Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, where we elevate marketing leaders inside and out. I'm your host, Veronica Rami, master marketer, executive leader, and mentor to ambitious marketing leaders wanting to advance their careers. Each episode is filled with genuine, unscripted conversations with some of the world's top marketing experts, accomplished leaders, and industry trailblazers representing brands, both large and small. Our goal with this podcast and everything we do is to help you master your role, nurture your team, prioritize your well-being, and evolve into an industry-leading rainmaker. This is the Rainmaker Podcast. What does it mean to be a Swiftie? Okay, this is a question that I have been asking myself and exploring as I've been writing my identity marketing book for the last couple months. And I've wanted this guest on the podcast for the entire time because she literally runs an Instagram account called Swifties for Eternity, Miss Olivia. This account at this moment of this recording has 582,000 followers. She has over 7,300 posts plus thousands more in the daily stories that she's doing. She's been managing this account since she was 13 years old. She's now 24. And if there was anybody that I wanted on camera to define to the world what it means to be a Swiftie versus just a fan, to discuss the identity behind Swiftie Nation, it would be her. And I have been trying so hard for so many weeks and so many months. And finally, we got Olivia on the podcast. And I am so grateful. She came on. She talked about the account. She talked about going to Taylor's house, to listening to the album before it dropped. She talked about the differences between being a fan versus Swiftie, what Swiftie identity has done for the NFL fandom and their identity, what it's done to the family unit to have these two communities collide, what the values are. I mean, like we got into all of it and it was such an enlightening conversation. And then she asked me a really good question right at the end and put it in a new paradigm, perspective that I hadn't considered before. And so she, for being so young, professionally and personally, what a wise human being. And I'm so grateful that we got her on the podcast and that you get to listen to her story. So without further ado, please welcome my guest, Olivia. Olivia, welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. I know you and we were working this out for several weeks, if not months, trying to make this happen. And I'm so grateful for your time. And you've been busy. You've been a busy little bee. You've been like at award shows and NFL games and hosting this and hosting that. Okay, I want people to understand you so deeply. I have been following your Instagram account, Swifties for Eternity, for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give people context, this Instagram account alone has 582,000 followers. You have 7,320 posts as of this recording, and thousands more in stories because you are so prolific. I know that like there are several accounts that are, Taylor Swift dedicated accounts, and you guys have your own little subculture, but you're one of the queen bees in that group for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to understand, I want the people listening to this podcast, like, how the hell did this start? Like, take me back to like Instagram day zero. You're just, just take me back to the beginning.
So I think I was about 13 years old and I started a Tumblr account and an Instagram account around the same time. Taylor was like super active with fans on Tumblr, which is why I spent a lot of time on there. But I also posted a lot on Instagram, every day or two, interacting with other fans while she was on tour and everything like that. And then when I was 17, I was a senior in high school. That's when Taylor found my account. She followed me on Tumblr and then eventually DM'd me on Instagram and then invited me to her house. That was kind of how I met her. And I kept running that account throughout college and everything. Now I'm 24. I still run it. But for a long time, I was doing it just out of pure passion for fun. Never expected it to blow up. I just enjoyed posting about what I posted about, and I enjoyed talking to other people in the community. And that's pretty much it. I didn't really care how many people it reached. Sure. I did it because I loved it. And then it wasn't until I would say like early to mid 2023 that it really blew up. I want to say August of 2023, I hit 100K. And so, a year later, we're at 582,000. So a lot changed, and hopefully in the next year I'll hit 1 million.
That's wild. I mean, that's okay. So you started this at 13.
Mm-hmm.
When you were 13, which album was it? Like at what point in Taylor's history
Right before
did
1989.
Right before
Right before
1989, right before the
1989 is when
pop.
I started the account.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when I met Taylor when I was 17, I think I barely, if I had 10K, it was like barely scratching 10K. I might have had like 8,000 followers when I met her.
Interesting. So she invited you to her house, not on the basis of hundreds of thousands of followers on the account, but just because of your, what, 4-year, 5-year loyalty at this
Yeah,
point?
and also, I mean, she would see my posts on Tumblr and stuff like that, but I
Mm-hmm.
also think back then there weren't really fan accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers. She was
Mm-hmm.
big, but she was not
Mm-hmm.
as big as she is today. And
Sure.
so that's why I picked a good artist, because if I was doing any artist, I don't know if I would be able to have the success I've had.
Okay, so then maybe you can help me figure this out because I have tried to research this detail by detail. Just the term Swifties, like different articles or different websites will contradict each other on like when the actual first mention of Swiftie occurred, like the genesis of that term. Do you remember when like Swiftie?
I don't remember what year it was, but I do remember a very specific
Tell
interview
me.
where
Okay.
Taylor addressed the term. She was like, "They're so cute. They call themselves Swifties." It was early on, but I don't remember exactly what interview or what month or what year it was. But it was early
Okay,
on.
this is interesting to me because as you know, I'm writing this book on identity marketing and we have different examples throughout the entire book where either the people self-proclaimed their own identity or the brand or business tried to give and issue an identity. Either way, it has to be adopted by the person at the end of the day, period, end of story. But in this case, she acknowledged that you guys had self identified. You were calling yourselves Swifties. And then she's like, and they call themselves that. So
Hmm.
she didn't appoint it.
Right.
This was something that the people called themselves on their own.
Hmm.
That's really interesting. So you remember the interview where she like basically validated,
Yeah.
affirmed it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Basically
Okay.
endorsed it. Yeah.
Endorsed it. And then is that, did the Instagram handle always have the same name or has it had different names?
Yeah, I started that at 13, never changed it since. There have been times where I'm like, I wish I could change it, but it's become my brand, so it's okay.
Yeah,
And it was meant to
it
be, I guess.
sticks.
I chose it.
Well, listen, I don't think it's actually a bad name. I opened my book with a story of Harley Davidson, how people identify so deeply as a Harley hog that they literally have like the casket commissioned, so it's all branded in Harley Davidson logo, and then they are buried in their leathers. And there's one guy in Ohio who literally spent 18 years planning his funeral, where he would be buried riding his Harley, almost like taxidermy, which is kind of weird, but it was this whole plexiglass coffin with him sitting on top of his Harley, being buried in that
Wow.
position.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Swifties out there who are planning their Taylor Swift themed caskets.
Oh shoot. And all the albums. Like, geez. Well, so yeah, so when you say Swifties for eternity, like quite frankly, you know that you've made it, right, as a brand, as an icon, as a symbol where people literally want to be buried for time and all eternity in that self-identity and that
Mhm.
co-identity that they share with you, which is, I mean, such a, gosh, it's such a testament to what she's done,
Yeah.
testament to your account. Okay, so I know, and I never would want you to disclose anything that would make you feel uncomfortable because I can imagine this is like such a deeply personal, life-changing core memory experience going to her
Mhm.
house. But to the degree that you want to share, like, what
Yeah.
was it? What was it like? I mean, what did it do for you?
Yeah, I mean, so I got to bring my mom, which was great
Yeah.
because my mom is also a huge Swiftie. So we went to her house in Watch Hill, Rhode Island,
Hmm.
and kind of parked in a parking lot, met her team. There were a few other fans there, got in a van, they took our phones. It sounds very sketchy, but it wasn't. And then we went up to her house and hung out with her family while she was upstairs getting ready. And then eventually she came down, and long story short, we sat down and she introduced herself and then told us stories because she had kind of been out of the public eye for a while. And so she
Hmm.
told us about her time away and what she wrote each song about on Reputation, and then would play each song because it was about a month before its release. And then we each got one-on-one time with her and pictures, and then we left. So we were there from like 5 p.m. to midnight-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was quite the experience. I'll definitely never forget it, and I hope that one day I can meet her again and kind of get an updated photo and conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting about her, especially at this point where like she's like literally the Michael Jackson of our generation.
Hmm.
She is it. Like it is what it is, right? And so, but her fans in the millions, well, I think a lot of us would describe that we still feel a level of intimacy
Hmm.
with someone
Yeah.
like her. And so the fact that she brought you into her home, you literally physically touched each other, you have pictures with each other, you're in her presence, you're in her inner sanctum with her family,
Hmm.
and your mom's there. So that level of intimacy and proximity. And yet I think people that still go to these massive concerts that 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 fans would still describe almost like an intimacy type of feeling because she converses with the people. She
Yeah.
shares, she's open, she's vulnerable.
Hmm.
That's something that's always been very striking about her and her style.
Yeah, no matter how big she gets, she
Yeah.
always makes sure that her fans are at the center of it all and that
Mm,
we feel like we're a part of her process. We're not just there. She knows that she doesn't have to do these extravagant
correct.
releases with all the Easter eggs and all that. That takes time and thought and energy, and she doesn't have to do it. We'd be here buying all her albums, all the versions and everything. She does it because she wants to, and she does it because it's what she's done from the beginning, and it's why
Yeah.
she has such a loyal fan base.
Yeah.
She knows what we like. She knows what we've done from the very beginning for her, and she wants to make sure that she never forgets that we are
Hmm.
the reason why she is where she is.
It's really nice. Okay, you brought up fandom, and I have this question for you because I don't get it. I like don't understand. I've seen. I don't want to misquote the wrong celebrity, but I feel like I've seen certain celebrities or certain people, or even I'll hear my friends say this, where they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm a fan, but I'm not a Swiftie." I'm like, "Wait a minute, what the hell is the difference between being a fan of Taylor Swift and being a Swiftie?" And so, like, you own this account. Define what Swiftie means because I don't understand when people are like, I'm not that. That's more intense than me. I'm like, but I
Yeah.
thought anybody who likes
Yeah.
her or is a fan of hers would consider themselves a Swiftie. So I'm confused.
Yeah, people say that to me all the time too. When
Yeah.
I ask if they're a Taylor Swift fan, and they'll say the same thing. They're like, "I like her music, like I'm a fan, but I don't think I can call myself a Swiftie."
Yeah. What does that
So
mean?
I think it means that if you're a fan and you don't associate with Swifties, you enjoy her music. You might not know all her songs, but you like a lot of the songs, and you don't go out of your way to listen to all the albums and all the music, and you don't know all the lore. So you don't know all the Easter eggs and all of that. Swifties are the hardcore ones
Okay.
who are super, super invested in every aspect of Taylor and her music. So the people who decode the Easter eggs, the people who listen to her music almost every day,
Mm,
or just have such a personal connection with the albums. And it's not just like you're a fan of any other artist, because I'm a fan of a ton of artists. I
sure.
love music, but I wouldn't consider myself as invested in anybody else's art the way I am in hers. And I
Okay.
think that's what it's partially because of this parasocial relationship that's been going on for so long with her, and kind of vice versa. And I think it's allowed us to get so deeply invested and involved, and it kind of keeps our loyalty because we feel like we know her as a person, and that's partially because she gets so raw and honest in
Mm-hmm.
the music. So we do feel like we know her. We feel like we can relate to her stories and the things she's been through. We know she's writing all her songs. A lot of artists don't write their own songs, or if they do, it's not as poetic, in my opinion, most of
Agreed.
the time. It's not as detailed, and when something is detailed, you can really relate to it more and kind of either picture your own life or someone else's life, but you can really picture it and empathize with it if
Mm,
it's very detailed. It's kind of like you're watching a movie in your own head,
mm-hmm.
versus if it's just a very generic pop song, then you might dance around to it and know the words, but you're not like connecting to it on a super super deep emotional level.
Yeah. Okay. That was beautifully articulated, Olivia. Like, that was so concise. Like, damn, you just mic drop that question. That makes a lot of sense to me. Like, a Swiftie is a fan,
Hmm.
but a Swiftie is a category of fandom that is
Right.
it's earned. You have to earn it,
Hmm. You have to
right?
earn it, but you also have to invest yourself in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. It's like a black belt in karate.
Yeah, there's like different tiers for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, now I feel like I have a goal. I'm like, well, I don't even know if I can constitute myself as a Swiftie. Like I thought I got to earn it more. That's really funny. Okay, that's a really interesting. It's funny that people even realize it even say, almost on a subconscious level, we're like, no, I haven't earned the right to call myself that because I know what those that do call themselves out, what they've put in
Mhm.
to earn that right to say I'm a Swiftie to that
Yeah.
degree, right? That intensity.
Mhm.
Okay, you brought up the fact that like your account blew up in mid 2023. Our girl has been dating one of the most successful NFL players of all time,
Yep.
one of the GOATs in tight ends. It's funny because just between us, I, not that I was a huge fan of Travis Kelsey, but I somehow somebody told me about this new podcast between him and his brother, and I had never heard of Jason Kelsey either. I like the NFL from a marketing perspective. I think the NFL is one of the best storytellers
Mhm.
of all time. So just from a marketing lens, I've always been a big fan and I like watching it with my family. But so I had like I think a coworker or something or a colleague was like, "Hey, have you heard of this new podcast between the brothers? They're so funny together." So I was watching because I prefer watching than listening to their podcast. So I was watching their podcast from like episode 0, number 1. No idea at some point, right? Like this cross pollination.
Yeah.
But she started dating him. He had the podcast. She is who she is. But talk about identities. You have Swifties colliding with arguably, to me, NFL fans are the most. And you want to talk about Die Hard? You want to talk about being buried in like, merch? Like it's NFL fans and the dedication they have to their teams. Like
Yeah.
it's insane.
Mhm.
And so you have these two, I mean, just gigantic forces now colliding because of like Romeo and Juliet literally coming together.
Yeah.
And now here's your account. So talk to me about like what that did for the account. Talk to me about I really want your perspective, your expert opinion on what you see when you see these things come together like this.
Yeah. I mean, my account, so in August last year was at about 100,000. And then, it was growing and growing. I definitely think when Travis and Taylor started dating and some of the NFL fans started pouring into the Swiftie
Mm-hmm.
world, I think that definitely helped my account blow up. And it's absolutely insane to me the impact that they've had on these two communities
Yeah.
because now you have fathers and daughters watching football. You have like these 5-year-old girls watching football because they want to see Taylor and Taylor's boyfriend on the field, and it's so cute. And then you just the communities colliding has been amazing, and the NFL has totally been embracing it.
Oh,
Like, maybe not all the fans, but the NFL, like social media and everything. Oh my gosh, all they do is post like Taylor Travis content because
yeah.
they know people love it. And you know what?
Yeah.
The people that don't comment and complain, but they're giving those posts engagement and the
100%.
posts are doing better, which is why the NFL will keep posting about them.
Agreed.
So, for the most part, I think the Kansas City community has really embraced and welcomed her into the community, which I think is absolutely great. I think they've also welcomed Swifties into their world. They're like, "Welcome to the Chiefs. Like you picked the
Aww.
best team." I just went to Kansas City for the first time last weekend. I went to my first game, and I also hosted my first event
I
in
saw.
Kansas City, and a ton of Swifties came who are also huge Chiefs fans, and it was just, they were so everyone was so nice and welcoming, and it was great to see. And then going to all the stores and talking to all the business owners, like everybody has Taylor Travis merch at their shops because they know it's what sells, it's what the people want.
Mm-hmm.
And also the impact she has had solely by wearing like a ring, a Chiefs ring on her finger at the game from a local
Yeah.
business. And that business, I was talking to the owners, and one of the owners was like, "My life has never been the same since Taylor wore that little ring
Oh.
from my store," because then they had thousands and thousands of orders, and it kind of put the store on the map. Kind of like people
Oh.
joke that she put Travis Kelsey on the map.
Yeah.
To be fair, for a lot of people, she did. For the people who don't really
Yeah.
watch football, she did. I didn't
Yeah.
really I had heard of him, but like I didn't know anything about him. I did not know about his brother or anything like
Yeah.
that. So for me, she put Travis Kelce on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she did for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
non-NFL football fans.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's been helping the community a ton just by putting all of those local businesses on the map too. So I think the benefit, the mutual benefit for the Chiefs and for Swifties and Taylor and just
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City as a whole has been really great to see.
It's funny. I was watching the Netflix special. What is it, Beckham? And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, it's like our modern day David and Victoria Beckham, when
It
like
is.
the
It really,
number one soccer star and the number one, Spice Girl, or one of
yeah,
the, it's like
yeah,
that. This is kind of our generation's version of that back
yeah.
then.
Probably on a bigger level,
Way
and
bigger.
partially because of social media for sure.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. We don't have to wait for the paparazzis to take a picture. We can see it on our phones
yeah,
whenever the hell we want it. I mean, like, you were on the sideline and you got like a great shot of
yeah.
Travis Kelce
Travis,
warming up and catching in front of
yeah,
you. I was like, take that, paparazzi.
yeah. And people are watching their romance unfold as if
Yeah.
it's a film, as if it's
Yeah.
like a rom-com or a
Yeah.
romantic film. And they're
Yeah.
just so obsessed. Every outing they have, everything they do, when they hug or kiss or whatever,
Oh,
everybody
sure.
freaks out. And it's crazy to see because I think everybody, because Swifties have strongly related to Taylor for so many years, like this is what, the 18th or 19th year, I think we kind of see ourselves in her.
Yeah.
And to see her happy and in love with someone who actually treats her well, we're rooting for that. And we're in turn kind of rooting for ourselves too. So we all want that ending for ourselves. And I think that's why we're so happy that she has it,
Mm.
because, it's taken a long time for her to find someone who deserves her.
Well, I mean, to compliment someone with that type of life is needle in a haystack.
Exactly. And I
Like,
mean, I'm sure a lot of men can't handle
no,
the fame, knowing they won't ever be as
no,
successful as her, and knowing that
no,
they're going to have to be in the spotlight all the time,
no.
and that they're going to be constantly asked about her.
Yeah,
Not everybody's comfortable or confident enough in themselves and secure enough in themselves to be able to handle that without taking a blow to their ego.
totally. This is something that for me, I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, we're not even talking about the financial implications of their collaboration because, like, it's, Travis and Jason just sold their podcast to Amazon for like 100 million,
Yeah,
supposedly,
yeah,
reportedly. And then obviously seeing, not that fathers and male figures in the family weren't supportive of the female figures in the family going off to these concerts, but like, to your point, seeing now they're like on purpose getting ready for the concert and wearing Chiefs
yeah,
gear, and his jersey selling out and stuff like that. So like, clearly there's financial implications. There's financial benefit for these two communities to collaborate, and the NFL is raking it in
oh yeah,
because every time he catches anything, he sneezes. It's like, what's her reaction? What's her
yeah,
reaction? Like, we have to know what she's doing
yeah.
as she watches him, because
Mhm.
God forbid that they don't put her reaction on
I
the
know.
screen. But what I think has been really cool, or for me, this is so like American of me to say this, but like, to watch the family's identity change because of this. Like, now and I think the Super Bowl did a phenomenal job at showing you some of these fun commercials, but like, having mom and dad, having brothers and sisters, having fathers and daughters and sons and mothers, like, having this family unit sit in now unison
Mhm.
to watch a game that was not what it looked like a year ago or pre-relationship. And so like, they're all excited, they're all rallying behind the team. Like, I just thought it was so cool to see the family come together because two identities also came together in a really cool way.
Yeah, and I remember there was a Super Bowl commercial kind of about that. I don't know if I
Mhm.
forget what brand it was, maybe like Cetaphil or something like that. And it was a dad going into his
Mhm.
daughter's room asking her if she wants to watch the game.
Mhm.
And she was like, no. But then he got his 89 jersey out. And then she came and they were watching the game together wearing friendship bracelets. And I thought that was like the sweetest commercial ever,
Mhm.
because that's really the impact that Taylor and Travis have had. And I wonder if they knew that
No, of
their
course
impact
not, right?
would be
Like,
this big. Yeah.
I mean, and now I'm like concerned for them, like, all the pressure to like
Yeah.
maintain it all. But I mean, yeah, I just, again, like, to your point, not that by being a Swiftie doesn't mean that like we are all in on Taylor. But tell me if you feel otherwise. Like being a Swiftie is also apart from Taylor. Like now it's an identity that would live past her too in a way, because like I would say the Swiftie community like has its own core values and it has its almost like its own mission statement. Like it just feels like its own
It does.
official identity on paper.
Yeah,
No?
I agree with that. I think we've built our own identity, and
Mm-hmm.
in our community we have our own values, and everyone is so nice. Everyone's so kind, and I think that's a big part of the community's identity, just being a really kind person for the most part. There's always the people on social media, especially Twitter, that are not nice.
Yeah.
And oftentimes those are just like, unhappy people trying to put others down because they're bored.
Sure.
But for the most part, you go to a Taylor Swift concert and everybody just has the biggest smile on their face. Everybody's saying hi to each other, trading friendship bracelets with each other, wants to make friends with other people that they don't know. And it's really unifying in a world where we need it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, I want to zero in on you if I may, because I, being so young in age, but also I would say in profession, right? Like being young in your profession, being young in age, having this monster account, being a content creator, very specific content creator.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we talk a lot about on this podcast with other marketers, other content creators is content creator fatigue
Mm-hmm.
or marketer fatigue. Like when you're in the arena, this particular profession is I just had on the podcast this week Nicole the intern. If you ever did you see her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she took an Instagram account from 0 to like 500,000 followers in less than 6 months. She got the attention of Gary Vee, all because she was smashing cans. She worked for a non-alcoholic. She still does works for a non-alcoholic beverage company, which is like the most saturated market you can possibly imagine. And she just started smashing cans every day, and she wanted to, as an intern, prove that she could do this,
Mm-hmm.
and she grew this monster account in record time.
Wow.
And so she was on the podcast this week, and I'm like, aren't you tired? Like, at what point did you just want to walk away from the freaking phone? And like and she got really vulnerable about it. And so I have to ask you, like, being young in your profession at your age, doing this since you were 13, like, sister, are you tired? Like, where are you at?
Thankfully, so of course, there's days where it's exhausting and I'm out of ideas or thinking about how I can grow it and make it better and reach a new audience and looking at the numbers and, oh, the follower count, is it growing fast enough? So, of course, all of that, sometimes gets to me. But for the most part, I'm still so passionate about what I post about. Like I'm so passionate about Taylor, about this community, about her music, about everything surrounding it, everything we've grown into. And it makes it still fun whenever I get to interact with everybody on my account and post about it and all that. The occasional, like, of course, you're going to encounter people who say mean things for no reason, and that can kind of be exhausting. But I've kind of learned to not care, because in the end, if there's 99.9% of people who are being nice and uplifting you, why would you take the time and energy to focus on like the 2 comments that aren't nice? So for the most part, I'm lucky. I don't get that fatigued, but there's going to be a time when the tour ends, football season ends, and I'm going to have to figure out how I can keep growing while things might slow down. So my wheels are spinning right now, for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was going to ask you about that. Like, where I know you did it almost like a passion project or a hobby, but now because of the size of account, I mean, you're being invited to like, did you go to the VMAs?
Yeah, I went to the
Yeah.
VMAs.
So
Yeah.
you went to the VMAs, you went to a game, you're hosting these little pop-up or
Mhm.
meetups or whatever. Like, and I saw on, correct me if I'm wrong, I also saw like your copywriting website and like, so I want to know like where do you see your professional future going forward? Like, how are you taking both maybe skill that you picked up from like
Mhm.
school, but now you have this account that can certainly be leveraged. Like, where do you want to go professionally from here?
It's funny, I ask myself this all the time. I'm not a big worrier. I try not to worry about, what am I going to be doing in a year or 2 years or 3 years? Where am I going in life? Because that stresses me out. So I really don't think about it. And I also find solace in the fact that everything always works out. I mean, a year ago, I would not have thought I would be here, right? I think if you have faith in the universe and your path, that you're going to end up where you're supposed to be, and it'll probably be better than you could have ever expected and pictured in your mind. So why try to picture what's going to happen? So of course I'm like connecting with people now and trying to figure out my next steps, but I'm taking it day by day, going to these things, meeting people, and kind of just waiting for it to fall into place on its own without me having to really give myself or force myself to give myself an answer right now about what my next step is, because I really don't know.
Okay, well, I think the thing that like I'm in awe of you a little bit right now is you just seem so damn level-headed. And I'm like, is this mom? Like, who in your life has like helped you maintain? Because even let's say you didn't have this account, let's say like, you were just like an average kid, like just an average 20-something-year-old.
Mhm.
It's just still this season of life. Like you're just being bombarded with questions every day about like, what next, what next, what next? And then you get engaged. Like, when are you getting married? When you get married, you're like, when are you having kids? It's like, oh my gosh. Like there's certain seasons of life where it's like, you're constantly being asked what's next.
Mhm.
And so your answer has like kind of like caught me off guard. You're so level headed. You're so present on with intention. Where does that, is that a nurture thing or a nature thing? Where does that come from?
I think it comes from having such supportive parents throughout it all. They never put pressure on me. They always knew, like, they always told me, they always knew I would figure out whatever I need to do, I'll figure it out. And they never put pressure on me, like, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. And I think that's what a lot of parents maybe sometimes forget to do, because they have a vision for their child. And without even trying, they do push it onto them. And I think my parents have been really good at just trusting my instincts and having faith that I'll figure out what I'm doing and it'll be successful no matter what I do. So I think that has definitely helped. And because if my parents were constantly asking me, what are you going to do next year? I would constantly be stressed out. But it's usually me sometimes having it in a moment of crisis. I'm like, what am I going to do next year? And they're like, you're going to figure it out. Focus on what you're doing right now, meet the right people, and you'll end up where you need to be. So I really do think it comes back to them for sure. And I think it's the best way to live life, because yeah, your 20s are probably the most confusing roller coaster of a time in your entire life. And there's all these things I want. Of course, I want to meet like my future husband and have kids and all of that. And in a perfect world, that would happen sooner rather than later. But I'm only 24, so I have time. But also, I think about the time I know I'm going to end up where I want to be. I'm going to have all of that someday. And I don't want to get there and look back and be like, damn, if I had known this is where I would end up and everything would turn out the way I wanted, I wouldn't have spent so much time worrying and stressing about what I can't control. I would have spent more time in the present moment enjoying the journey. And I think that's what so many people forget to do. Enjoy the journey, because you're going to get to your destination no matter what. Time's going to move, and you're going to look back, and you want to look back with regret and be like, oh damn, I should have really enjoyed those ups and downs because it was a wild roller coaster of a time, but that's just life. Or are you going to look back and be like, I'm so happy I didn't waste my time and energy worrying and stressing about the things out of my control, because I was fully present in all of those special moments, and even in the bad, sad moments of our 20s. But it got me here. So you kind of have two choices, but you're going to get to the end destination regardless. It's just, do you want to enjoy your life and be as happy as you can? Or do you want to stress yourself out for no reason?
I mean, shit, call it a day. Like I just went to church. That was amazing. Get it, Olivia, get it. I like your feisty side that comes out. Like, what's the point of that? I'm like, yeah, what is the point of that? You're right.
I try to keep myself in check sometimes. Sometimes it comes out.
No, I like it. I like it. I mean, I'm a Latina. Of course I like it. So yeah, bring it out. Bring it out. Okay. Well, so we do this fun thing on the podcast where we leave the last question for you to ask me whatever it is that you want to ask, because you've been such a good sport and me asking you all these evasive questions about your identity.
Mhm.
And I'm really grateful because I'm going to put a lot of these in my book with your permission. So thank you
Yeah.
for that. But what would you like to ask me to kind of wrap up this incredible podcast with two marketers?
I kind of want to know about your own Swiftie identity journey
Oh,
and when it
yes.
started, how it started, and where you are now.
Reputation. I don't know if other Swifties will answer, like, I'm sure everybody has a different, but for me, it was that album. And it's not that I didn't enjoy 1980. Like, I did. There was some great songs. So, like, she has some songs where I don't care who you are. If you're The Rock doing lip sync battles, like, you can't help but just like appreciate good art. And
Mhm.
she's an artist, and what she makes, it's catchy as hell. But if I had to pinpoint the album that, like, I felt myself in, like, okay, she's talking about me, or I can relate, or like, it's definitely Reputation. In fact, me and my friend Adelaide, we're gonna Olivia, we have flights, we have hotel, we have no tickets. We're going to Toronto. We're gonna, fingers crossed, we can go see our girl, right?
Yeah.
But we're fighting now about which outfits to wear, and I'm like, well, I'm clearly Reputation. She's like, no, I'm Reputation. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm Reputation.
You guys
So
could both do
oh,
Reputation.
for sure. And now we've even talked about that, just to be nice, like, I get to wear this outfit, or she gets to wear this outfit. But I think for me, Reputation, just like this triumph of, like, because I've been a marketer for almost 17, well, now 17 years, and, like, I've had some great bosses, and I've had some great experiences, and then I've had some horrific, kind of like traumatizing experiences, and traumatizing type of employer or treatments, so to speak. And there's nothing worse than when you're a person of integrity and you're doing the best that you can, and then somebody pulls a gladiator move on you where they try to villainize the greatest warrior of Rome, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I had recently gone through an experience like that, where, like, I was well loved within the walls of the organization, but somebody tried to make me out to be a villain, and none of it was true,
Mhm.
just because it would shield their own villainy. And I
Mhm.
won't get into too many details past that, but, like, clearly that album was about that too.
Yeah.
That album was about, like, everybody hates me because of the narrative that's being pushed out there by a certain someone and their companion, and F that, like, right. And it was that bat kind of move, and it was just this, like, let's go, like, gloves are off. And that really just resonated with me in so many ways. And so I think for me, it started as Reputation. And then it's kind of, there's, like, for example, Lover wasn't like, that didn't resonate. I'm like, I'm happy for you. But I didn't see myself in that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And then when she got into the Folklore and the Evermore, I was like, ooh, I really like these a lot. Like,
Yeah.
so I think different albums speak to me differently.
Mhm.
But my journey definitely started with Reputation. Hence, I wore the red lipstick for you today.
Yeah, no, I love it. My favorite thing about Reputation is during that time, everybody on the outside was like, "What happened to Taylor Swift? She's so dark now. She came out with a dark album, blah blah blah." But if you really know it, and that album was for the people who really take the time to know her, it
Yes.
was about falling in love in a dark time. It was not a
Hmm.
dark album at all, actually.
That's awesome. Actually, I love that paradigm shift too, because you're right. Like, it felt like a, V for Vendetta. But you're right. She did sing a lot about, like, her happiness when everybody thought that she wasn't, right?
Mhm.
Like, actually, I never thought of it like that. Look at you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on the Remaker podcast. Thank you for being generous to, like, contribute to my book. I really do appreciate it. And just you getting on camera and defining what it means to be a Swiftie, it's invaluable to me and anybody who listens to this podcast, whether you identify as a fan or as a Swiftie. I think we can all agree that she is the artist of our generation. Period. Period. Thank you for joining us on today's Rainmaker podcast. Marketers help other marketers. So if there's a marketer in your life who could really use a new perspective in a way that helps them advance their career, please pass this episode forward, share, leave us a review. Everything helps as we embark on helping as many marketers elevate themselves inside and out. You can always visit veronicarami.com for today's show notes, additional links to some free resources and tools for you to help you advance your career. You can always connect with us on social media at VRami if you want more behind the scenes or a way for us to connect personally. Until next time, my friends, make it rain.